make sure we're recording. Yep, good to go. Alright, so as mentioned before, definitely switching up some gears and now working in more of a three-dimensional way, but at the same time at least a little bit more architectural. However, most of the time, especially in like Revit, it's kind of catalog based or calculation based. What's nice about Rhino is we still have the ability to draw things in elevation or in section or in plan view, as you guys just worked out, that you can sort of abstract model something first, in order to get some ideas across or potentially look at some volumes with even shade and shadow calculations. So I'm going to go ahead and hide some of my information just because I don't want to bog my screen down. So hide some of my previous assignments, and of course if I ever need to show them I can just type in show. But let's go ahead and take a look at the assignment together. So the next operation of our observation tower will require refinement and diagramming as we continue. However, before we just start putting things into a cohesive object, let's focus only on the vertical circulation. Stairs, ramps, and rails all have very different way of being made depending on the forms that are chosen, especially in comparison to hand drafting. For this project, we will use the simple 6 by 12 inch steps, 6 by 12 inch steps, and a 1 inch to 12 inch for any ramps that you may choose. Landings, of course, should be at a minimum of their width, and we will assume the material is steel and concrete, or steel in concrete. For this exercise, we will put away the abstract designs for a moment and later combine and refine them. So, obviously we're just focusing on stairs, ramps, and rails, and I've even put like a, just kind of a little markup of where we're trying to go with this. Obviously we want to show off the vertical circulation of a particular space, but in our case, the assignment is really just about going from level 0 to whatever level you went to in terms of your abstract model. So if you chose 30 feet, obviously you need to make a model that at least goes to 30 feet. If you chose 50 feet, obviously you need to make your stairs go to at least 50 feet. So there's a couple of ways that we can do this, and I do want to review a couple, right? For the most part, I'll kind of fake it till I make it, obviously for the sake of tutorial and for the sake of speed. But do want to actually show you a couple of different ways, because there's not really just one way, as you guys know, to do everything. However, our first step is to make sure the abstraction is saved, perhaps hide the same file. Right, so you can either start a new file, but what's important here is that you don't accidentally mess up those abstractions, right? So keep that in mind. Number 2, start using your top, front, and side views to create the necessary profiles for your stairs, ramps, and complete run of stairs as needed. Honestly, pretty vague steps. Number 4, copy and continue the process until reaching a 60-foot height mark. In my case, it was 60. Before, I kind of let everybody basically just choose the height they want, so you can disregard the 60. Number 5, rails can be made in one pipe. Use profile curve to have handrails be 36 inches above the finished floor, which in our case are steps or ramps. Needs vertical circulation that reaches the top deck. Must use both stairs and ramps if you're at D2 above. If you haven't taken D2 yet, obviously you can just do stairs. You don't have to worry about ramps and everything like that. However, if you're in D4, I want to see some stairs and ramps, man. I want to see some circulation. And in fact, there's some really good examples right next to you, right? And like some of the models, I'm looking at the one actually to the left of Andrew, probably one of my favorite in terms of the circulation of stairs, right? At least in terms of modeling. But yes, it must have at least one floor at the very top for observation. And then the final drawing, the last thing that I do want to cover today, is that it needs to be a perfect 45 by 45 plan oblique drawing, which we'll use Grasshopper today for that. And of course, I'll make that available in Miro. In fact, let's just go ahead and drag that right now so I don't forget. There it is. This is basically the file that you'll need to open up in Grasshopper. But yeah, we'll let that load for a second. Anyway, let's go ahead and start exercise 4. So first things first, it doesn't really say I need to do this, but it would make a lot of sense to go ahead and make some sort of bounding box. So in my case, I'm just going to use a rectangle and make sure that I have a 30 feet by 30 feet, and obviously use the same dimensions as I used last time. Obviously I can use all 4 views and make a copy at the destination height that I want. So in my case, I'm going to go with 45 feet. Doesn't really matter in this case. Just make sure that you choose something similar. I'm going to hide some of this stuff because it's really getting in the way. Sweet. So first things first, the first method that we could choose is basically, I call it the profile method. So typically drawing things in profile, right? Some of us, at least the way that we learn to model stairs is sometimes just making boxes and stacking those boxes, right? That's kind of I think the first for a lot of people, where yeah, basically you take the plan and you of course make it and go. However, there's 2 ways, right? I can either do this in plan or in elevation. So I'll show you the first one. Let's just do it in plan. Let's assume I'm just coming up with stairs and ramps, so I don't have to really think too hard. So I'm going to go ahead and explode this bounding box, and I'm going to say that there's a stair that's I don't know, 4 feet wide or 3 feet wide. Does anybody know the minimum that a stair can be in terms of wide? 36 inches. 3 feet is the smallest width of a stair that you can have. However, we're gonna live it up, fancy, no budget style, and go 4 feet. So I'm gonna go offset, not offset surface, just regular offset. And I'm gonna go with 48 inches, enter, and just kind of set up some stuff. Right. Looks like I have 2 lines. I accidentally made 2. I'm gonna go ahead and delete that first before I get too far ahead of myself. But yeah, I should probably make a stair layer and keep track of stairs versus ramps. Definitely. Might even want to change it to something I can see a little bit better. Right? And really start making those stairs. Now, this is for the most part like a regular floor plan, right? So you change the object layer and basically just start making some stairs. So in my case, offset. I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna trim it up a little bit. Maybe that's my first stair. Sweet. Well, I need, it says 12 inches, so I'm gonna go with 12-inch treads. And I could sit there and do that over and over again, or I could just copy it. Use that particular point, so I do need to make sure my end point is on. Sweet. I could do that over and over again, or I could copy 3 at a time. Really get a lot of stairs in there. Oh, messed up a little. Happens. Now, you don't need the floor plan for this assignment. You just need the 3-dimensional model and that 45 by 45 plan oblique. So some people don't like to take the floor plan method because, well, they get a drawing that they don't necessarily need in this case. But let's face it, you know, this is just part 1 of the project. You know, you might need a floor plan later. It makes a lot of sense to get it out of the way now. However, I think I have more stairs than I need. Sweet. But at least now I can actually calculate how many stairs I would need. I can simply count them, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. But now I also have a visual base for these things. Now, as you can see, it didn't really quite put it on the base. It put it just wherever it wanted to. In fact, it put a bunch of lines in there. And sometimes this happens to us, right? Pop quiz. Does anybody know what to do when this happens? When I accidentally copy over and over? You might not be able to see that in the projector. What I would do, simply highlight the whole thing, type in make 2D, We're going to uncheck hidden lines because I shouldn't really have any hidden lines. And just start over, right? But not really. Now it's of course perfectly flat, and nobody will ever have to know that we messed up in the first place, right? Nobody's going to have to know. But now it's perfectly flat for us, so just in case you ever run into that problem yourself, I find it to be a very useful trick. But this is what I meant by, well, I could simply just extrude these, right? So if I made a box, right, I could simply, connect that line, and go up 6 inches. Enter. Sure, that works. And most of the time we kind of do this to make our first stairs. Ain't no shame in that. However, for this project, I definitely don't want that, right? And nobody's allowed to do the block method, right? So what we need to do is actually generate these stairs. So what I like to use is a polyline and start where I want to start, right? So in my case, I'm just drawing the profile, so the elevational view of this stair. And what's funny is I really only need one. I mean, I could sit there and really draw the whole thing, but this is where your second view will come in handy. You can type in 6 inches, enter, hold shift to make sure it's straight up, and then of course hold the direction to go 12 inches that way. So 12 inches, hold shift, enter, enter. Because really I just need this piece, because after all, I can copy it and create that profile myself. Here it is. So like I said, a little different, and as you can tell, something got off a little bit in my stair. So let's try that again. Polyline. I want to make sure that it perfectly goes up. So in my case, maybe I should hit F8. That way, or I can hit ortho, right, up in the corner. That way I can make sure that it's perfectly straight. Because in my case, I do want my stairs to be straight. And then go off 12 inches. And I have a feeling that was the issue. There we go. Now it looks definitely straight. Another thing that we can do, just because, well, might as well show you, we can get fancy with the spices. So in my case, we've seen some stairs do this before, right? Maybe they got something fancy, maybe they have a toe kick. You guys ever seen that before? So let's try it. Let's try some fancy stairs and some unfancy stairs. In fact, please don't do this, but I'm gonna go rhythmic today. Just choose one, right, for yours. But for the sake of a tutorial, we'll go ahead and show both. That way you can kind of see the difference of what it looks like in modeling. So we'll try some straight steps and of course some fancy ones. And just to save on time, I'll go ahead and copy those. Oh, and as you can see, the dangers of drawing in 2 different plans. Now, interesting again, oh no, what do I do? Right? In fact, just make 2D. Make sure that you're in the right viewport. And sometimes I do these on purpose to kind of show you what to do if you accidentally, do mess up. Oh, but I was in the wrong view. That's fine. We'll take that line again. However, we don't need any of those, so I'll hold shift, actually command. There we go. Because we don't need all those other lines. We'll make sure we're in the right view, make 2D. That way we can save what we did. Of course, we should see it pop up about right there. And we just need to move it to the right spot. And clearly get rid of this, whatever that is. There's the correct one. Well, there's the old one. There's the correct one. Move it back into place. Yeah, might be easier to just redraw it, at least in this case, because we only got 4 steps. But at least now you know how to fix a situation like that. I'm going to go ahead and put them together so I don't accidentally do that again. Join, enter. I'm basically making a wireframe of it first. Okay. Now don't worry, it seems like we're spending a lot of time on this one part, but what's nice is, well, it really only has to be drawn a few times. And you'll see quickly why. Looks like we need a few more steps. It's fine. However, it looks like we have a few too many. When in doubt, you can always draw a line from wherever they intersect. So make sure you have an intersection. Sweet. And let's go up to that point, see where we have to chop off. Ah, there it is. So we definitely don't need these two steps, so let's explode that real quick. And get rid of them. Even that one. Sweet. Well, that's pretty cool. We got the top half of the stair. However, we do need the bottom half. So let's go ahead and get that. That one's a little bit easier. We just draw a line. And in my case, I'm going to choose the bottom point. And really any of the bottom points. So now that I have that line, I'm going to go ahead and offset about 6 inches. Alright, I can let it be entirely up to you how thick you want your stairs to be. But that's looking pretty good so far. Looks like we need to extend it a bit. It looks like we need a line. We need to find out where those lines meet, so I'll just extend it. Bam. I think there's a way to extend and trim, but that's looking pretty good. Sometimes my lines disappear when I zoom in, so apologize for that. Let's do that again. Extend. That was a weird way of doing it, but pretty cool. And go ahead and trim again. Alright. So far so good, except I need to put them together to make one closed curve. So I'm going to go ahead and join them. So now that when I click on it, it should be all one curve. However, it looks like I'm missing a piece. I could sit there and just draw a line, or I can close curve. And it'll add that piece for me nicely. And also nicely, it'll add it in the right spot and flat. Last but not least, as you can imagine, all we have to do now is extrude it. Put it right across, lock it in place, and voila, we've got a full set of stairs. Even better, we've got a full set of stairs we can copy over and over again. So I'll take that intersection, and in my case, it's a good thing I drew it on the ground first. That way, I even have points to lock onto. Right? So I'll take that, simply rotate it, RO, rotate, take that same point, really pick anywhere and move it 90 degrees. In my case, well, I need a landing first too, right? Obviously, I'm coming up to that step. And, well, I could do two things. Let's face it, I could just extrude this face. So extrude surface, could. But there is one that should be extrude face. Extrude surface works too, I guess. So we'll take that piece and take it out a certain direction. Well, I can either type in 4 feet because, well, I chose 4 feet, so it needs to at least be 4 feet. Or I can simply lock on to my drawing. Again, another good reason to draw it first as well. Got a pretty good landing there. It's not looking bad. Let's get this guy in the right spot, so let's go ahead and move him. And it should actually be right there. And you may notice, oh my gosh, we're missing something. Whatever shall we do? Well, we could do a few things. We could fake it till we make it and just go extrude surface again. Just, you know, fake it till we make it. Nobody's gonna know, right? You could do that. You know, I'm open for it. It doesn't look horrible. And honestly, if we go to rendered view, yeah, I mean, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. In fact, some of the better stairs I've seen in a while. Obviously, you don't want to do the rhythm thing that I did, otherwise you're going to kind of get this weird situation. But what's nice is you can get a lot of detail, right, for really not a lot of work. Anyway, throwing that out there, you can get as fancy as you'd like with the stairs. Let's copy that again. Because why, you know, draw this over and over again if I can just simply copy it. Got my landing, so I need another landing. I'm gonna go ahead and take this one, put it over here. Sweet. I still have quite a ways to go. So actually, let's go get that 50-foot mark again, or what did I choose? 45? Let's go 45 feet. Come on. Enter. Nice. What? Not sure why 45 isn't working. Let's investigate. Oh, it's because my ortho's on. That makes sense. 45 feet. Enter. Alright. Now we got a point. So we still got some ways to go, to say the least. Where's that point? Let's extrude it. I can see it a little bit better. Anyway. I guess that's fair. And let's get this back to perspective. There we go. Alright, so we got some stairs. I could get fancy with the spices. Right, I could make the stair come up a little bit here, maybe come around there. You know, obviously my D4 students, my D3 students, I'm looking for, you know, some investigation. This is really just for the sake of tutorial and to really start modeling stairs. However, I do want you to get a little fancy with the spices in terms of, you know, testing your ability of vertical circulation. So that being said, you know, I gave one way that we can, you know, sort of fix that. Let's talk about another one too, though. So I'm going to go ahead and make another copy. Take it from a certain point that I know that I can basically put there and rotate. So rotate. I do want to make sure that I get the right angle, and of course flip it. If I hold shift, it's going to keep it in a 90 degree. Right? And it's going to continue that stair. So on and so forth. And maybe for the last steps we get a little fancier. I did mention that there's other ways to, of course, fix this. And I think one of my favorite ways is to continue that that angle. Right, so actually just drawing a closed rectangle, or sorry, in this case triangle, and extruding it to the other side. I don't know. I tend to think that looks a little bit better. And definitely less noticeable. Yeah, pretty good. Let's keep going. Like I said, I do want to get a little fancy with the spices. What's nice is you can continue with the exact drawing that you had in the first place, right? You know, that original piece. You don't necessarily have to draw it over and over and over again, especially if you did something quite fancy or particular, right? Maybe you just want a piece of it, so I'm going to go ahead and copy it and kind of move it off to the side, right? Sort of rework it without accidentally messing other things up. So maybe I want to go a little bit smaller, and I'm going to go ahead and explode it again. And extend this line. Extend that one. Sweet. So that's looking pretty good. However, really just want to stop the stair there, but it's not going to let me in a perspective view. It will let me, however, in this view, go perfectly straight. And lastly, I just need to trim whatever I don't need. So in this case, all of that stuff. And now I have these nice little stairs that I can use. I'm going to go ahead and join those again just so I don't lose any of them. Sweet. Copy. And I'm going to go ahead and place it where I need it. So again, I like to use a base point, very similar to what I keep choosing. Might need a landing first, but let's see if we can fake it till we make it. I'm going to go with that point. Sweet. That's going to be a weird stair. Yeah, that actually works. Let's go ahead and get 2 landings there. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that one. Or I could just get fancy with the spices, right? Well, I mean, why work harder when I can work smarter? Extrude face. Or sorry, I keep saying that. It's extrude surface for the command in Rhino. It's extrude face for SketchUp. So it's really the exact same command though. I don't know. Instead, let's still go out 4 feet. But this way, let's go out 8 feet. All right, let's have maybe a long landing, or maybe even a ramp. So let's do that again. That'd be kind of cool. How do I make a ramp? Well, I could fake it till I make it and just select the face, which is kind of interesting. Obviously, I can go to filter and really only select poly surfaces, right? So let's see if I can do this. I'm gonna hit F10. Used to be able to select a face. Anyway, I'm not gonna get too fancy with the spices. There's not really hard ways to make a ramp. Honestly, we just need to put a 1 to 12 triangle on this. I just wanted to show you that you can actually manipulate stuff fairly easy as well. But it won't let me select a face. Let's find out why. Disable. Give me one of them. Nope. I need all of them or nothing, right? That's lame. Alright, let's uncheck it all. See what we got. Leave poly surfaces and surfaces. See if it'll let us. No. Of course not. If I explode it, that won't work. I mean, I'll be able to get the face, but it won't do anything. Oh no! As much as I love undo, I gotta love redo as well. Anyway, let's do the ramp second. How about that? Anyway, obviously I'm making this up as I go, so in your case, hopefully there's a little bit more thought into the design. Obviously it won't let me select anything because I have my filter on. So definitely be careful with the filter. Very often if you uncheck stuff, you'll be like, man, why can't I click on something? And usually your filter is the reason, right? So, and now we can click on it. Sweet. I'm not sure why it keeps doing that though. Let's. Oh, that can't be good. Maybe I undid stuff. Let's put it back together. Oh, we got a lot of lines. That's okay. Oh boy, everything's been exploded. That's not good. Let's go back. But everything's been exploded. That can't be good. Well, in that case, go ahead and join everything. Because it'll only join stuff that can be joined. Man, what did I do? What have I done? I mean, literally everything is separated. I got a feeling it's something to do with my filter though. Oh. Disable. Everything's definitely exploded. Like, very exploded. That's not good. And it definitely seems to be something with my settings. What have I done? Ah, sub-objects. Thank goodness. There it is. Anyway, learn something new every day. Be very careful with the filter, by the way. Anyway, maybe a learning moment. Anyway, let's go back to where we were and go ahead and extrude face. and not get too fancy with the spices. After all, we do need to get out of here in 28 minutes. So, actually I just realized I have a foot there. So technically I could get away with 3 feet. Sweet. Let's go ahead and do that again to this face. However, now that I have a 3-foot width, my ramp or something needs to also be 3 feet. I don't know, let's go all the way to this side. That'd be kind of cool. Why not? Not bad. But as I was mentioning before, we can get this piece like last time. Of course, we'll want to join it. Sweet. And we'll move that one. We could also make a copy of it. Actually, let's make a copy. We don't know if we need it again. Yeah, let's go ahead and put a stair over here. We still have some space to go up though, so needs to be at least 3. However, I guess it could be bigger. So extrude. I guess it could be bigger, but let's go with 3. Probably gonna have to fix a triangle or 2, or fake it till we make it. Oh. A lot of different extrudes. Make sure you choose the right one. Faking it till we make it here. Alright. Let's get another ramp involved. Or I guess in our case that's a flat ramp. Technically it is a ramp, I guess. Just not a ramping ramp. Let's actually get a ramp in here. So in our case, yeah, let's still go with 3. I at least want to get to the top and show you at least how to do one ramp. So polyline. Honestly, we just need a triangle or a quadrilateral, really, if you want to stay consistent. So in my case, I'm going to choose the point and make it in sort of like a 3-dimensional space. It's good to be aware of which direction you're going, right? Obviously, it wants to stay on something else. So you need to choose the right view, right? If that's not the right view, we could use that direction. Can't really use that direction. Although we can just make the triangle real quick. We'll go up. In our case, let's see. We're gonna go 8 feet. So 8 feet. And in 8 feet, it should go up 8 inches. So 8 inches. And of course, we'll get that slope. Obviously, it's in the wrong direction that I want it. So I'll just turn it. And make sure that it's at a 90-degree angle. Get that in the right spot. And that way we can get at least a little ramp going. It's looking pretty good. Or let's get it in the right view. Ah, there it is. Yeah, you know, it's coming to a point. It looks kind of silly. Let's go ahead and explode that. And copy that line. There we go. Looking a little bit better. Of course, now I can put those together, join them, and it is still open, so I can close that curve. Sweet. And close it for myself. And it gets a little thick, right? So I guess I could squeeze it down a little bit. It's really up to you. I'll leave it thick just to kind of see what it looks like. But let's go ahead and extrude it so we can get an actual ramp. Yeah, I don't know, it looks a little silly to me. So I'm going to scale 1D. And obviously just change that 1 dimension. Oh, looks like it only scaled 1D on one piece. Let's try that again. Piece, piece. There we go. Nice. Looking pretty good. Let's complete it. Why not? Extrude curve. Oh. Extrude face. Surface, sorry. Go 4 feet. Why not? And let's just copy that one. Take that point. But yeah, definitely different than I think what we've been doing last time. There's a little bit more of what feels to be like a right answer, right? And even then, we still haven't gotten to the top. So, however, let's say that I was finished, and it looks like I accidentally got rid of one of my stairs. Oops. Good thing that it's all together, and I can just extrude that curve over. Sweet. Next thing I might need are actually my handrails. So that might sound like it's absolutely crazy, and you're like, what? I gotta do a handrail for this too? However, we could just use a polyline, and we can draw on this model, right? So in our case, it does need to be 36 inches from this finished floor corner. So in my case, I just need to trace, well, the floor corners first, right? So I'll get that piece and almost treat it as if I was making a pole on the ground, right? Obviously, I need to switch up my, there we go. And obviously just follow the ground, so I'll keep that straight. Usually there's actually a bump, right, in our handrails, so we'll have that little bump in there. And you can sort of choose points as you go. You don't necessarily have to go all the way up. You could really choose every stair, or, you know, 2 minimum, just so that we can get that angle. Oh, got something crazy in there. Obviously we're gonna have to move that point. Otherwise we're going to get some wild rails. Sweet. Yeah, I should probably just take the center point off. I didn't know you can even find the center of a square, but okay. And obviously we'll have to readjust as we go too, if we're going to trace this model. That's looking pretty good. Let's go across. Obviously we'll need a rail there. Going to bump up again, go across. We do want the rail to go up similar to the ramp, so again, tracing that exact corner. And let's go all the way to the top. Let's check it out. That piece, and right there, enter. Now all I basically need to do is, since it needs to be 36 inches above that, is move it, make sure that I'm in the right elevation view, and move it 36 inches, enter. Sweet. So far so good. It looks like the wireframe of a handrail, at least. We can go ahead and get the other side, or if it's let's test it out. Oh, obviously we got to fix this piece first. Not a bad fix. There it is. You jerk. All right, we'll get that piece. Get a, you know, if it's bent a little, I kind of like that. I don't know, kind of Toy Story 4 look, right? Let's go ahead and pipe it. Right, obviously I can do a pipe situation to where, you know, it's asking me for the radius. So in my case, I'm going to go with 1 inch. And 1 inch on the other side. And it's quite literally going to turn it into what we know as a handrail. And as you can see, that little bend does some work. Of course, I could have moved it to the right spot, but yeah, we get a very similar. Have you guys seen these before on stairs? Right, the little bends in your handrails and things. You know what those are for? For the blind, so that they know when the stair actually starts and stops. Right. Anyway, so let's continue. You were doing code and you didn't even know it, right? Let's see if we can actually offset that line inside, right? Why work harder when we can work smarter? So I'm going to get that pole, right? So I might have to look for a little while for that curve. There it is. Let's go see if I can offset it inside. It's worth a shot. Most of my stairs come in 4 feet, so it might actually not work because, well, I changed it too many times. So might not actually be the case, but at least for the sake of tutorial, let's see if this works. And it doesn't look like it. At least I don't see it floating in space, so it tells me, well, we gotta make our own, and that's okay too. So obviously we need to do both handrails, but for the sake of tutorial, let's say I do have both, right? And I was good to go. Last thing I need are what are known as the balusters, right? So the corner pieces and of course all the other pole parts that really complete this. Now, don't get me wrong, maybe I want some horizontal rails. So obviously I need the handrail, but if I just take the curve and let's say, I don't know, array it or copy it, and let's take it, I don't know, every 4 inches. So let's say 4 inches from there, and do make sure you go straight down. You don't want to accidentally put these off at an angle. So let's say that goes down 4 inches. And this is where it starts to get kind of dangerous if you try and do sort of the cool copy method that I always do. Or it doesn't always work out. So sometimes you do have to do it by hand. But as you can see, we're starting to get sort of like a horizontal handrail situation. Let's keep going, because that's looking pretty cool. I'm just going to fake it till I make it though. And we'll say that's about right. And fake it till I make it. We'll say that's about right. It's looking pretty good. So I'm going to take all of those lines. I'm going to pipe them. I could also sweep them too. So if I wanted, you know, like say a really cool design of, you know, how the handrail is supposed to feel, I could sweep those as well. I don't necessarily have to pipe it, right? However, for the sake of tutorial and speed, I'm going to go ahead and just pipe them. I do want them to be a little bit smaller than my handrail, so I'm going to go with radius 0.25 inch. Real small, maybe like a cord. Nice. So we're getting somewhere. Dang, can you imagine modeling or drawing all this out, guys? Let's check it out. Oh man, can you imagine calculating all the shadow for it too? Pretty good stuff. But so far so good. We've got handrails. Last but not least, we need something to hold up all these rails, right? However, we just need to make one, so we could get fancy with the spices. Really, we just need some sort of rectangle, right? Some sort of column piece, if you will, right? That, for more or less, says that these are, of course, together, right, and completed. So, well, there's honestly several ways. I can just make a pipe, right, and just make it go straight up. So there's a couple. We can go straight up, right? We could get perpendicular. We can get fancy with the spices and be like, well, what if it was perpendicular to it? All right, so we'll choose one. Let's get rid of this rail because there's too many getting in the way. Get out of here, fool. There we go. Make another line. Obviously, we're still making the balusters. So a couple of ways. Well, we can go perpendicular to the floor, or we can go perpendicular to the rail itself. Now obviously I can choose perpendicular and get a perfect perpendicular, right? I could get fancy and sweep it and make a certain profile. So like, you know, let's say I want my balusters, I don't know, cool C shapes. Why not? First I should figure out where I am. See, this is why it's kind of hard to see the color yellow as well. For the sake of tutorial, let's just pipe them. Not really a huge deal. You can get fancy with the spices, I'll definitely allow it. But for the sake of tutorial, let's go. That's looking pretty good, at least in terms of structure. Not bad. I might want to actually move it a little bit more towards the step, or obviously make it get to the handrail. So we may need to continue that a little bit. Extrude surface. And make sure that, at least collides a little bit. It at least starts to look real, right? We'll put those together. We can Boolean union them. I'm going to go ahead and copy from right there. I'm going to go up every couple of steps. Obviously, I'd want to be pretty even, so I'll go up like every other step. Obviously, for the sake of tutorial, we'll just kind of fake it till we make it. And we can even trim them. Alright, so I can do TRIM. And that's something that definitely did not used to work in Rhino 6 or anything like that. That's honestly pretty awesome. No, I don't want wireframe mode. Let's check it out in rendered view. Let's get some shade and shadow going. Man, now we're talking. Can you imagine seeing that in studio and going to your professor? No, I've really thought about these stairs, right? Even their handrails, how they look, how they're kind of transparent, things like that, right? Now, another way that you can make the stairs, and I just wanted to point it out because otherwise we get a bunch of sort of regular stairs. You're also more than welcome to make floating stairs. So if I do a rectangle on my side view, let's go back to our little drawing over here. I definitely like to do it in drawing first, guys, just because most of the time we even need the drawings too. So, and let's face it, sometimes I have to laser cut, so it's always good to kind of have the drawing. But we could do some floating stairs too. There's nothing wrong with that. Let's go with maybe like 4 feet. Let's recalibrate and center ourselves. Sweet. And obviously I could just copy that over and over again. So copy. So even if you want to go with a floating stair, you're more than welcome to. However, it's kind of different for the stringer, right? We usually have to take this piece and just extrude a smaller portion of it. So usually a stringer is about 6 inches steel. Yeah, and you can totally do a floating stair as well. Yeah, now we're talking. So yeah, definitely up to you. Really kind of what style of stair you want to choose, or even handrails. Again, that's really not the point of the exercise. But if you want to get creative and really test out the program, absolutely. So last but not least, we do need an axon view of this guy. Because, well, stairs are particularly hard to really grasp for some people, especially in communication. Everybody has used stairs in their life, but for some reason when you see a drawing of a stair, I can't tell you how many times people accidentally go the wrong way. They see MC Escher, they see kind of crazy situations where they're like, is that really work? Does that really work or not work? Even some studio professors, I'd be lying if I said sometimes I read y'all's drawings and I'm like, are you going up or down? Or, sometimes just because they're not labeled, but usually too because stairs have a funny way of making an optical illusion. Anyway, maybe a conversation for a different day. But let's go ahead and get a perfect 45 by 45 axon view of this. Also, it happens to be really cool the way we get it. So, in my case, I just need the model. I don't really need all these lines. So, maybe the filter is undisabled this time. Let's go ahead and get everything that is poly surfaces. I don't need any of these curves though. They'll kind of just mess with my my grasshopper a little bit, so I just want to make sure that the curves and the points are out, and that should be okay. So now when I select this and I copy it, I should just get the poly surfaces that I want. Sweet. You guys see how I did that? There's the correct way to use filters, right? I think by default everything is on though, so you shouldn't have issues there. Wouldn't be a bad idea to make a base for this as well. Obviously this is kind of just free-form space. It might just look like a funny little snake right now, so we might want to give it a base in some case. So let's go ahead and do that. In my case, I'm just going to make a box, type in box. I'm going to use that rectangle that, well, I made. Again, another good reason to actually just go ahead and draw these things. I'm going to go ahead and copy that and give myself a pretty formidable base. That way it starts to produce some shade and shadow for me, and really just something for my drawing to solidify. Ah, there we go. Right, and it starts to be at least somewhat different. Now let's go ahead and move my model a little bit. And I went ahead and attached a Grasshopper file. That doesn't seem to be there. Could have swore I dragged it in. I might have to actually put it on canvas. I'll go ahead and put it on canvas. But essentially, it's called military projection, right? So what you'll do in Rhino, you just type in Grasshopper. It's going to load up this cool little Grasshopper thing. In my case, it needs to know which plugins to load, so got to tell it. But it's going to load up Grasshopper. Maybe green was not the color of choice today. Could have swore I chose red. Anyway, let's go ahead and load military projection. Mine's already loaded on my page, so I'm going to go to File, and of course open that document. Right, so in my case, it's that military projection. It'll be the only one available to open. It's very specific. It's specifically a Grasshopper file, right? And we basically, this is an algorithm that basically just messes with geometry. Now, I'm not going to get into some of the advanced things that this is really doing, but as you can see, I've made some labels. You can put any geometry, whether it be a mesh or a brep or a geo, and if that absolutely confuses you, don't worry. You don't necessarily need to know these terms, but it's good to get familiar with them because, yeah, in the digital realm, they all have different names for the different types of geometry or categories that they are. So in our case, you guys already know, we work with curves and poly surfaces, which is part of the NURBS family. Now, again, I'm not trying to make this a computer science course, and they really do all have names. So anyway, good to be at least aware of that so that you can look it up for yourself as well. So basically it's asking for an input. In our case, it's going to be our stairs, right? Now also in our case, it's asking for either a mesh or a brep or a geo, and in also our case, it's a brep, right? So I'm going to switch to my brep and load this subcomponent with the stairs that I do have. So in my case, I need to take my stairs, my poly surface, and load multiple breps. So I'm going to right click on my brep, and I'm going to choose set multiple breps. And it's going to crash on you and come right back. That's good. A good sign is when actually the orange colors go away. That basically means that, well, the program's running correctly and it doesn't seem to have any issues. Let's show you what happens when there is issues. Right, you'll see actually these little red flags. So obviously if I switch, everything goes to orange again, and that's basically trying to give you a warning that, well, nothing's working. Right, so obviously I'll switch back to breps, and of course those colors will change. Now for the preview, you'll notice these three buttons at the top. If you hover around them, it'll even tell you what they are. So these basically control the preview that's being created, which should be in red on our space. Obviously this really helps when you have a dual screen because, well, it made a really funky model for us, right? It reprojected it for us. That way in a top view, it'll actually be a perfect 45 by 45. Isn't that pretty interesting? What's even cooler is that if I rotate this model, it'll freeze again, but it'll rotate it and create that model for you in real time. How cool is that? Now, there's a reason why we can't show you that in graphics too, right? Because you guys would be like, done, I'm gonna be an architect tomorrow, right? I don't have to know how to draw all that. You do, right? And it is really important to understand analog and drafting. However, at the same time, we don't got any time for that, right? Especially in studio, right? To calculate and make these drawings. But once we're done, let's say, I found the right view. No, actually, maybe I want the other side. No, maybe I don't. That's looking really weird, actually, right? It's starting to overlap each other. So maybe I want to choose something that maybe has a little less overlap. So we might need to iterate a little bit. That's looking pretty good, right? There's a little overlap, but yeah, that might actually help. And anyway, that's looking good. Let's say I keep it. So I'm going to go back to Grasshopper, and I'm not sure why it's called bake, but we have to bake it. So right click on this output and bake it. Now what's cool when we bake is we can actually set it to a certain layer. So for instance, I can choose stair layer or even a make 2D layer or anything like that. So I'm going to press OK and go back to it, and right now basically what you're seeing is a preview of the Grasshopper and the model itself. Right, so it actually even produced that model for us. And in our case, an actual 3D model. So lastly, all we need to do is make 2D. Of course, I want to get hidden lines. That way I can start to get some of that information. I might also want to get a rendered view. That way I can get shade and shadow as well. Now, since we've already done that, of course in the previous exercise, I'll leave it up to there to obviously maybe talk about the shade and shadow again. I don't think we need to really cover that again. And as you can see, since we have so many lines and it's a very complex model, make 2D definitely is going to take a lot longer. Oh, I should have actually hidden my ISO curves. I'll show you that next. That would be also pretty good to take away. They are on by default. I think there is a way to turn them off. Basically, we have to turn a 1 to a 0, but again, I'm not going to go over that today. However, this should produce something soon. This is where the Jeopardy music will play. It's really thinking about it. It's thinking hard. I guess we could turn off our preview. Alright, so it doesn't have to work so hard. When you have Grasshopper open, your computer's definitely working hard. So if you find that your computer's not really good at this situation, you can also use the school computers. So Rhino 7 also has Grasshopper. Now Rhino 6 does not have Grasshopper, so you would have to use Rhino 7 or Rhino 8. You can install Grasshopper for Rhino 6, but it's just a very different process. That was before it was integrated. However, we got our Make 2D. Yeah, it definitely looks like those handrails slowed our computer down. But boy, are they going to make some really good line weight. Now, oh man, it looks like I got a lot of stuff I didn't need, right? So it would make either a lot of sense to either fix my drawing or, in this case, fix the model, right? Otherwise, I'm going to be sitting here forever just kind of fixing some lines. I might leave some just because of the human error. But oh my gosh, that's going to be really fun to fix. Honestly, I would just sit there and delete that. You probably would never notice. But yeah, some of this stuff's going to be like, oh my gosh, good thing I have it layered, right? Maybe I definitely layer everything to handrails versus stairs versus, balusters versus maybe all the different components to, of course, make going to Illustrator a lot easier for this situation. But what's nice is, well, for exercise 4, all I'm looking for, guys, is this on 11 by 17. So lastly, I'm just going to make a rectangle. We'll say that it's a perfect 11 by 17. Logo, a name, maybe actually make it a little bit smaller or bigger in my case. That way I can include some shade and shadow on it. right? Maybe I put it off to the corner, and just for giggles, let's say the shadow does something like that. And so on and so forth. Maybe we center it up a little bit. Obviously, composition is not going to be too important here, just because we only have one thing to show. But yeah, make sure it's composed. And we have a week to do this as well. So even though I did the entire assignment in an hour, obviously I'm looking for you to push this a little bit more. I want to see some, you know, some pushing the elements here, right? Especially for my D4 crew. However, if you're still somebody who's only taking D1, by all means, really just focused on looking at the program and of course modeling, right? But hopefully this is something you could easily use by tomorrow in studio. So hopefully useful. Any questions, comments, concerns, or something you maybe want me to address specifically about stairs, ramps, or now's the time? Can definitely record it. Nothing, guys? All right, fair enough. We'll leave it there.